Well, it's noon and it's Thursday, and this is Coffee with Ralph. This week I'm going to delve into maybe who I am a bit. You see, this last week let me update you. I'm working on a workshop, course, seminar, whatever we want to call it, that's going to help attorneys and their clients prepare for this thing called long-term care. And actually, I have something written out that's going to keep everybody on the straight keel and make it so their kids or their caregivers know exactly what that person wants. But as I was thinking about it, somebody asked, well, the attorney, as a matter of fact, asked me the question, why is this area so important to you? And I got thinking about it. Well, here, let me show you my screen. It's a little weird, but okay, let me share my screen with you here. Uh, yeah, right there it is. How about that young man? Boy, oh boy. Yeah, last week as I was thinking about this, I asked my sister, did she have any pictures of me and when I was young, because she's kind of the keeper of the documents, if you will. She's got all mom and dad's stuff, whatever. And she said, sure, and she sent it over. And a lot of the pictures, because of what happened to me when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, um, really don't have a lot of meaning. But this picture sticks with me a lot. Um, I know what you're thinking. First off, you haven't changed much in 60 years or 50 some years. See, this pictures of when I was about 8. And what you really can't see there is all the bumps and bruises and scratches that were on me probably just weeks prior to that picture being taken care of. And I guess that's where my story starts. Matter of fact, I know it is. It's one of the memories that are ingrained in my mind and just set there forever. And it was probably that when I got old enough that made me say, well, I need to change things around a bit. I need to chase something different than most people would think about chasing, working on. Let me explain. That's around my 8th birthday. And, that's a school picture. So, it's probably in the fall when we go back to school. So I'd have been about 8, 9, something like that. That summer is the summer, or maybe my 7th, whatever, somewhere around there is the summer I decided I was going to learn to ride my bicycle. And I was going to do it without training wheels. And so I'd bring the bicycle up to the steps. And I'd get on the step and I'd get on the bike and I'd take off and I'd crash, not wanting any help, didn't want a bit of help. Wouldn't accept it, as a matter of fact, probably, knowing stubborn little turd that I was. But I continued that all day. And I finally got to where I jumped on the bike and I went down the sidewalk. And right about then, there was a realization in my mind. I did not know how to stop the bike nor turn the bike. So I think you can see what came next. It was a big crash. Knowing me, it probably wasn't very slow either. I probably was really cooking along there. The reason I mentioned that is it was also that same time where we ended up visiting my grandma in a hospital. And she was all bruised and swollen, and it just wasn't my grandma. But mom explained to me and my sisters that grandma had fallen off her tricycle and hit her head really hard, and that's why she was having problems. Well, knowing that what I'd just gone through, it made perfect sense to me. Sure. But we continued to visit grandma in the hospital for, I don't know, a couple of weeks or whatever it was. And then the setting changed. The next time we visited her, I remember walking in and going, "Oh, this place stinks, man. This is terrible." And the sights and the sounds, and they're all strange and pretty scary. And we visited grandma, and she was in a bed. And that went on for 5 years. But I think what it was the fact that I watched my mom change. Well, not watch her, but I was in the room when mom would change grandma's diapers, and grandma messed herself, and I didn't understand it, and she babbled. I mean, she couldn't really talk. She just kind of babbled, like maybe like a baby, I guess. And that's when mom, clarified and said, "Well, grandma's now in her second childhood." I guess that's how you explain things to 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds, when you don't know what to tell them. But here's the point of that whole story. One of the things we do as children growing up is we expect our parents to be truthful and to help us deal with the emotions that go with that truth. I guess I was probably 12 or 13 when I found out that and figured out that grandma didn't fall off her tricycle, because I could never remember grandma having a tricycle. And the second childhood thing was something, I don't know where it came from. Maybe it was because she couldn't speak. I don't know. Maybe it was because mom was changing her. I don't know why mom chose to tell me that or tell us kids that. But here's the truth. Grandma had a massive stroke. She lived 5 years after that. So here I was, 8, 9 years old or whatever I was. So I was 12 or 13 when grandma passed away. And I spent the rest of my childhood and most of my adult life wondering why we were lied to. And really, now that I'm a parent, I've got 2 beautiful girls. And I realize that mom was trying to shield us from the truth. And maybe mom didn't know how to really tell us what happened. But here's, fast forward. I mean, I'm going to go through my whole life story here eventually. That leads me to this course and what gets there. But let's fast forward a bit. My daughter, my oldest, is a very talented violinist. And when my older brother, who's, by the way, 16 years older than I am, said, "Hey, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you grandma's violin. See if it's playable." Grandma had a violin? Why did grandma have a violin? And then my older brother proceeds to tell me the memories he has of grandma. How mom and dad and him and his sister, my sister, would go out to grandma and grandpa's house on the weekends, and grandma would play the fiddle, and grandpa would play the accordion, and my dad would play the organ, and they would all sing, and they had fun. How grandma made great cookies. Grandma had great recipes. Grandma was a great cook. Grandma was a seamstress. She sewed all her own clothes and all. And I'm thinking to myself all this time, grandma? Wait, no, grandma was sick and old and lived in a smelly place. I never remember grandma cooking cookies or playing the fiddle. I don't remember any of that. What I remember is my mom, spending almost every day at the nursing home to take care of her mom. Well, then you got to fast forward a little bit. It wasn't long after that. I was 14, 15. My dad was struck down with colon cancer, and he'd waited so long to get it operated, get it diagnosed, that they took out all his colon and 2/3 of his large intestine, which in effect made him an invalid. He couldn't work any longer. And mom was diagnosed with lymphoma. So the process, just this thing we call care, just continued. Well, dad couldn't work, and mom couldn't work, and so I was working and going to school, buying her medication and paying for dad's medications and dad's doctor's visits and all that good stuff. Why weren't they on Medicaid? I don't know. Why weren't they on Social Security? I don't know that question either. All I know is I was 15, 16 years old working full time to make sure that mom had her medication. And that went on for about a decade. Now, my kids don't remember my mom and dad because they were gone long before that. They were gone when I was in my 30s, as a matter of fact. But now here we are. And I've got these two beautiful daughters. And for the last 20 years, basically, we've had my in-laws living in our backyard. Grandma was losing her sight, so we put a house on the property so that they could age out there. And I talked to my older daughter, and I asked her about the memory she has of grandma and grandpa. And I get told, grandpa was a lot of fun. You know, we rode around on the cement pad before we put the house there, and even wrote my initials in the concrete, and we had cookies, and grandpa was a lot of fun, and grandma was a lot of fun too. But then I turned around and I asked my younger daughter that same question, and she's 6 years younger than my oldest. And all she remembers is she didn't like to go to grandma and grandpa's house because she was always being yelled at to pick up her toys because grandma might fall over them because grandma was going blind. Well, okay, I pick it up your toys. Yeah, I understand that, honey. She goes, no, Dad, they wanted me to pick them up even when I was still playing with them. So all she remembers now is grandma being sick and not much fun. Fast forward again. I don't want my kids having those kind of memories of me or my wife, my mom, that I had of my mom and my dad. And I certainly don't want them to have memories that I have grandkids that come back and only remember that mom took care of dad, took care of granddad. And so why am I so adamant about this area? It has to do with that 8-year-old young man you're looking at on the screen. And the 66-year-old self that's looking at you now. It's a life that's been defined by care, by providing care, by being around it, by seeing the damage it does to families, by seeing the damage it does to siblings in that same family. That's not what we're called to be. We're called to be responsible. I go back to that same question. Why did my mom and dad lie to us? Because they didn't know how to tell us the truth. I understood that part. Now that I'm older, now that I'm a parent. But look at the damage it did. I never really trusted them. It broke the trust. If they can lie to me about that, what are they going to lie to me about next? This has been Coffee with Ralph, and I forgot to tell you that coffeewithralph.com is a free 15-minute call with me, and we are coming up on Medicare, so medicarewithralph.com gets you an appointment to talk about Medicare, or let's talk about this long-term care issue. Hey guys, I want you to have